One of the problems we have on this show is that I cannot persuade any Republican elected officials of any stature or Republican candidates for office of any stature to come on this program. Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell said out loud last month that he would come on this program. He said that to Laura Ingraham, a conservative talk radio host. He said it live on the air. It was even on tape.
See if you can get Rachel to set that up for me.
Yeah, I will send her a note for sure.
I thought you meant it. Awesome. Will Governor McDonnell actually come on this show? No, he will not. Even when they say out loud that they will come on this show, Republicans will not come on this show. And so, our aforementioned great news is that we've got an actual Republican who has agreed to come on this show next week. Yay! And it's a conservative Republican United States Senator, James Mountain Inhofe of Oklahoma. He will be on this program on Tuesday. Hooray! Senator Inhofe has a new I Don't Believe in Global Warming book out. I'm not totally done with it yet, but I will be by the time I talk with him on Tuesday. But in publicizing his book, Mr. Inhofe has been talking up one of his main arguments for how we can be sure there is no global warming. And his argument is Genesis 8:22. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, and day and night shall not cease. Genesis 8:22. God is taking care of it, so we do not have to worry. Mr. Inhofe elaborated this argument to a Christian radio show this week, saying, quote, "My point is, God's still up there. The arrogance of people to think that we human beings would be able to change what he is doing is to me outrageous. We could not screw the earth up even if we wanted to. Only God can do something that's that big a deal." Do you know what the Ohio Department of Natural Resources said today? They said apparently we can cause earthquakes, and we have been in Ohio. Quote, "Since March 2011, the Youngstown, Ohio area has experienced 12 low-magnitude seismic events, ranging from 2.1 to 4.0. 12 earthquakes, all in Youngstown, Ohio? Youngstown, Ohio is not exactly San Francisco. It's not really earthquake territory. But all 12 of these earthquakes were clustered less than a mile around this. This is the North Star 1 well, a Class 2 deep injection well used for oil and gas fluid waste disposal. Remember the night of the Michigan Republican primary when Rick Santorum pulled that rock out of his pocket and started banging it on the podium?
This is oil. Oil. Out of rock. Shale. It leaches oil.
The way that you get oil out of rock like that is that you shoot water and a whole bunch of chemicals into the ground to crack open the rock, to crack open the shale, so you can get oil and gas out of it. You pump an enormous amount of fluid into the ground, but then what do you do with all of that fluid that's now wastewater once you're done? Well, quoting from the Associated Press today, municipal water treatment plants aren't designed to remove some of the contaminants found in the wastewater, including radioactive elements. So what do the oil and gas out of rock people do with this water then? They drive it to Youngstown, Ohio and shoot it into the ground there. It's called a deep injection well. They drill down 9,000 feet into the rock underneath Youngstown, Ohio, and they dump their radioactive and toxic water down there. What could possibly go wrong? Well, when Youngstown started shimmying and shaking last year like it was on one of those 1940s era weight loss belts, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources decided to look into what was going on. Now, they didn't exactly hurry. It did take 11 earthquakes before they decided to look into it. But they did look into it, and their report is out today, and the report says there is a, quote, compelling argument that the Youngstown earthquakes were, quote, induced. Induced by man. Induced specifically by the toxic radioactive fracking wastewater being injected into Ohio's bedrock. Now, a little later on in the show, we're going to be talking with the great Ezra Klein about all the new economic data that came out today. Good jobs numbers, good economic numbers, 1.2 million jobs created over the last 6 months. As the economy picks up, I mean, it's still not good, but it is definitely going in the right direction and has been for some time now. As the economy picks up, the Republican candidates for president and the Republicans in Congress have seen their Obama tanked the economy talking point go a little bit wobbly. And in its place, they have increasingly focused on, well, sometimes on birth control. But when they get back to economic issues, they focused on the one economic issue where they really think that they, Republicans, have the upper hand. And that is gas prices, energy. this year's drill, baby, drill, right? So you've got Rick Santorum pulling that shale rock out of his pocket and banging it on the podium. You've got Newt Gingrich reconfiguring his whole presidential campaign to be all about gas prices. He waggles his little gas can everywhere he goes now. Do you remember when Bob Dole endorsed Mitt Romney this year and complained that one of the reasons he never liked Newt Gingrich is because when Newt Gingrich was speaker, he would always turn up at events carrying an empty bucket that was supposed to be some sort of symbolic thing that nobody understood, and it was just weird because he was carrying a bucket? Well, Newt Gingrich is doing it again. Now it is a gas bucket. That's the whole focus of the Newt Gingrich campaign now. Mitt Romney, also on the same 2012 version of the drill, baby, drill thing. Yesterday, Mr. Romney was in Pascagoula, Mississippi, talking about how President Obama is against drilling for oil. Now, factually, that is not true. Here's oil production under President Obama compared to George W. Bush. So you can't say that this is an anti-oil production president. But those are only the facts, and politics are only very rarely about the facts. And Republicans finding themselves in an economic environment that is disturbingly positive have decided that they can count on high gas prices as their economic argument. They can count on high gas prices making President Obama look bad and making them, by extension, look good. But there is a flip side to being the drill, baby, drill guys. I mean, when the result of the drilling is that you are creating man-made earthquakes in Youngstown, Ohio is not psyched about that. In the United States Senate this week, Republicans forced a vote again on the Keystone tar sands oil pipeline, trying to force President Obama to build that tar sands pipeline, even though he has made clear it's not going to happen, at least anytime soon. Republicans think that that is a slam dunk, home run, touchdown, mix all your sports metaphors, perfect political issue for them. America loves tar sands. America wants tar sands. You know what? Turns out America has already got some tar sands.
There is another oil cleanup underway in this country tonight. In Michigan, following a leak in a pipeline, it is calling attention to an environmental danger we don't often think about: the 200,000 miles of oil pipelines that crisscross this country.
Good evening, Brian, from the banks of the Kalamazoo River outside Battle Creek. As you can see, there is a thick coating of oil on the water here. The boom stretches right over to the other side, and you can smell it, Brian. Oil is in the air. This is where they're skimming. The oil is coming up. It's coming into the skimmers, and they're bringing it in on shore here. And what is happening now, Brian, is that they say that they are going to be here approximately for the next month so they can clean this up and get it back to the recreational use that it was before. But as I said, it's going to take a month along here. They've got 10 of these locations up and down the river.
It's going to take a month. That was the NBC Nightly News coverage of America's first ever major tar sands oil spill 2 summers ago in July 2010. You heard the reporter there, Kevin Tibbles, saying that the oil company thought it was going to take a whole month to clean up that spill. But because that was not just normal oil, because that was tar sands oil, because that was the kind of oil that would be in that Keystone XL pipeline, it did not take a month to clean that up. It did not take a year to clean that up. It has so far taken 20 months to try to contain and clean up that spill, and it is not over yet in Michigan. Although Kevin Tibbles could see some of that oil on the surface of the water, the problem with the kind of oil spilled there, and that with the kind of oil that would run through Keystone, is that most of it doesn't sit on the surface where it can be boomed up and scooped up. This oil sinks. On the occasion of the Keystone vote this week, Mother Jones and this Canadian paper that you see on the screen here, they have been writing about that Kalamazoo River spill, explaining that tar sands oil, this bitumen, quote, is thick and heavy, and it has to be diluted with a noxious chemical cocktail so it can flow in the pipe. When spilled, the dilutant evaporates into the nearby atmosphere. Marshall, Michigan residents reported nausea, migraines, and burning in the eyes and throat. Meanwhile, the tarry oil, the bitumen, separates from the dilutant and it sinks to the bottom. The oil sinks. How do you get oil out of a river once it's sunk to the bottom of the riverbed? Nobody had any idea until there was this big spill all over the Kalamazoo River. The technique they have come up with to clean it there is what they call agitating the riverbed. Shaking the bed of the river bit by bit to try to bring the oil globules to the surface, to try to collect them there. I'm sure that's great for the river. So far, it has been 10 times as expensive per gallon as a normal oil spill to clean up, and it is still not clean 20 months later, and the people who live there are mad.
At the time of this bill, my children were at a daycare center within a mile of Talmadge Creek in the Kalamazoo River. My son had throwing up. My daughter developed a very strange rash on her body. There were headaches, nausea, vomiting, upset stomach. We had a burning sensation in our throat, burning in our eyes. The 40-mile span is still closed to this day. There's a no contact order to this day. If we try to put our hands in this river right now, you'd get in trouble. It looks beautiful, but it is not.
We just hope that people will learn from it. Before you continue to run tar sands through pipelines or propose new pipelines, be better prepared and study it. Just hold off until you know just what you're dealing with.
Hold off until you know just what you're dealing with. But remember, the Republican Keystone vote this week in the Senate was to rush the approval of Keystone. Don't bother studying it anymore. Just go ahead with it. 11 Democratic senators voted with Republicans for that, but it did still fail in the Senate. Republicans think that this is a great issue for them. They think in an election year, this is one they can count on. I think it is more complicated than that.